Alright guys, before we get started, here we are at Chapter 3. Well, we're getting ready to begin Chapter 3. There's two things you need to do. So first you want to open Unity, and then you want to open the current scene. So you want to do File, Open Scene, go to your Scene folder, and then there's your test level. Make sure that's the one that you open. If you open that one and you click on Player, you should see an animator and an animation component. As long as you have both of those two, you're good. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to import the Chapter 3 assets. Now, to do that, you're going to go down here to the project window, right-click on Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and then you're going to find your assets. Remember, they're in this week's Angel folder under Materials. And if you open up Angel, it looks like Unity Asset Package Chapter 3 Start. So make sure you download that to your desktop and load that in. Mine are going to be in a different spot. Mine are in 2D Game Files, Project Files, Unity Start 3. And then let that go. So it's going to load a prefab asset, and that's going to add a test level, and then it's going to create another player, or a player folder, and then it's going to put another sprite sheet in there, and this is where it gets weird. Like, they told us to create the test level, and then he's going to constantly add new levels on there. So I think what he does is, in case you screw yours up, you can load this file and it'll have a test level that was correct at this point. So that's my guess. Again, it's so hard with these books to make sure you get the right one or to understand what's going on. Alright, then to see if it imported, if you now have a player folder and you get a bunch of stuff under sprites, and if I go to scenes, I now have test level and test level 1. So the new test level that he just downloaded goes there, and if I hit File, Open Scene, and if I go to test level 1, that's the new one that he gave you. So if for some reason you screwed up the stuff in Chapter 2, you can just start Chapter 3 with a fresh level and just load test level 1. But if your level is good, like if I click Player, now see, there's no animation component here. There's the animator, but no animation, which really freaks me out. So make sure that you open, just stay with the one that works for you, which should be the one that we're on, test level. Because now if I click on Player, I got that animation and animator. But if for some reason you really screw yours up, just load the test one and then go back and add those extra components, and you should be good. Alright, so moving forward, in my chapter, I'm on page 43. That's where our first set of instructions are. It says building our sprites. And you can skip this whole section. Unity now will auto-slice your sprites if they're set like that. So this tells you to go to Assets, Sprites, Player, find the sprite sheet, and then go here where it says Sprite Mode, and then do Multiple. But they're also saying at the beginning you would start with all the different sprites on your screen. Now, if you had changed the default setup for some reason, here on the screen, instead of just getting one little guy, we would have all these guys pictured throughout our screen. And I thought there was a picture of it somewhere in the folder or in the book, but I'm not seeing it. So, never mind that. But you should only have one guy on the screen. If for some reason you have multiple guys on the screen, click on Player, find the sprite sheet, and then change this to Multiple and Apply. And then you're good. Now you can see, it obviously didn't change anything for us. So really, if you start the scene and you only have one character on your scene, you're fine. You can skip all the instructions on page 43. Alright, moving forward, next instructions are on page 45. On page 45, they tell you to adjust the pixels to units value. Now the first time I ran through this, it automatically set this, but I don't know if it's because I loaded the new scene or what. But now if I go to Assets, Sprites, Players, and I click on my Player 1 stand, the pixels to units is 100, so I do need to change that to 92. And then Apply. But you're going to have to change all these different ones as we use them to 92. So right now just click on the stand one and set that to 92. Or just grab the entire sprite sheet and change those to 92 and apply. And then hopefully, oh, it did not change the rest of them. That's too bad. But we'll change those as we get moving along. So that's where you would change that value. So pixels per unit 92. Alright, then moving forward, the next set of instructions is on page 47. So they tell you with the P1 sprite sheet selected. So go back down here to your files, player, and click the sprite sheet. And then they say open the sprite editor. So then you have to jump up here to the right and hit the sprite editor, and then that'll come up. And then here's where in the book they tell you like where you can do slice, and I can do automatic, or I can do grid. Apparently manual is not an option anymore. And then pivot. We want to pivot at the bottom. And then you can hit slice, but I don't necessarily need to do that right now. I can just go here to pivot at the bottom. Well, I guess I'll have to hit slice. And now we're good. Go away, stop, turn off. Alright, so that's all you have to do for page 47. Click on the P1 sprite sheet, sprite editor, bring up your slice, make sure it's on automatic, and change your pivot point to the bottom. And then you're all set. And hit slice, and then you turn that off, get rid of that, apply, and boom, it's gone. Alright, and then at the end, or on the very beginning of page 48, they tell you this would be a good idea to save your scene. So file, save scene. So remember, we're working in the very first one. We're in, test level, and then test level 1 was the new level that gets added. If they add something with the same name, they just add a 1 or a 2 or a 3 behind it. So we're working on test level 1, or I'm sorry, just test level. Alright, and then we move to the last bit of instructions that are on page 50 where it says exercises. Now, I guess I'm kind of confused because here we're going to create a weird item. And then in the next chapter, that item is no longer there. So I don't know if this necessarily needs to be done, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway. And then when we get to the start of the next chapter, we can just delete it. So what they tell you to do is go to Assets, Sprites, and then Game Tiles. So that's number 1. Now number 2 says left click in the inspector and change the sprite mode from single to multiple. Now we've already done that, so we can skip step 2. And then step 3 says change the format to true color. Now that format should already be true color by default based on the sprite. So those 2 and 3 are already done for us. 4 says open the sprite editor. So we click on our sprite and then we go to sprite editor, and then that opens it up. And then it says make sure it's set to automatic and to pivot to the bottom left. So this automatic, and we want to pivot at the bottom left, and then slice. And then it slices everything for us. Get rid of that. Go away, window. Crazy window. If you just click there on the black, that'll make that go away. Alright, and then close the window. Duh, I already applied it. Stop it. Do something. Alright. So, and then number 6 says drag the tile sheet to the hierarchy pane. So we drag it here. And then they want us to change the name to box item alt. Box item ALT. And hit enter. So you got that, and then depending on where your player is, he might be over top of it or something like that, and then the camera. Alright, so changing the and then in the inspector, make sure the position is 0, 0, 0. But if I click on box item alt, its position is 0, 0, 0. And then in the hierarchy pane, left click and drag to the prefab. So they want us to make a prefab. So we're going to grab this box item alt and drag it to the prefabs and then let it go. And then there it is. So you can see there was one already loaded for us, and I'm pretty sure that was an asset that we just got today. So that does get a little bit confusing. Like if you turn in your book to page, now I'm going into chapter 4. Excuse me. They show you on page 66. Here's like where the level starts, and if you see your player is at position 1, 1, 1. So right underneath him would be position 0, 0, 0. But you don't see this box there anymore. And then nowhere in here does it say to get rid of the box. So I think eventually we'll get rid of this. I think we were just supposed to create the prefab for that and then use it later on. That's my guess. So that's all you have to do for this chapter 3. Now, in the next chapter, we actually start using some building blocks or some tiles. And we actually start building the scene, which is kind of cool. So then you'll start designing your level. So then you'll start looking a little bit more like a game. And then in chapter 5, we start working on movement controls, and we kind of blossom from there. So don't lose heart yet, folks. We will be playing a lot more in Unity as we progress. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, make sure you go here and do File, Save Scene, and then File, Save Project. Always save your scene and your project just to be sure. Alright, remember, if you have any questions, make sure you drop me an email. And other than that, I'll see you guys next week.